What's going on, everyone? Yesterday I dived into the idea of Gale Weathers potentially being an accomplice throughout the Scream franchise. Not so much in the sense of a ghost face or a mastermind, but more so of somebody that had the information and knowledge of what is really going on. Having that agreement with the killers, which makes a ton of sense. One, she's protected, she doesn't have to worry about being attacked. Secondly, she capitalizes and has the most to gain by what happened, which we did see in the Scream franchise. And third, it's great for the killers because it sort of corroborates the alibi through the media, through a reporter as, known and profiled as a Gale Weathers. Now, I don't want to go too much in depth into that discussion because I have a full video on it already. So if you're curious and you haven't seen it, link down in the description below. Feel free to check it out either before or after, whatever works for you. But I wanted to make this video to sort of elaborate and extend what that conversation was, because I received these comments from Cade Richardson that really sort of expanded on my original argument and idea. I backed it up with evidence and points throughout the Scream franchise, but there were definitely some holes and even some things that I felt I didn't explain well enough. And I thought these comments did an excellent job of adding to my theory and idea for Gale potentially being an accomplice. So I want to have our discussion per usual, so make sure you join it down in the comments below and let me know what you think. And before we jump into it, be sure to like this video. Helps me out a lot, lets me know you enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button, followed by the bell notification so you never miss an upload. Stay up to date with all things Scream, join this wonderful community and all of our discussions. So I want to start off by reading what was said, and then we'll have our discussion and I'll sort of elaborate on certain points and things like that. So let's get into it. I've said it before. Casey Becker finds information about Maureen's murder, which she chooses to approach Gale with. Casey doesn't know if her boyfriend committed the murder, but she is convinced that there is more to Maureen's murder. Gale uses this information to put two and two together. She approaches the killers with a great pitch. They need the media to legitimize their innocence after framing Neil Prescott. Casey becomes disturbed by Stu's obsession with horror movies and murder and chooses to dump him. For security, she chooses to date the star footballer for protection. The killers deduce that she has been feeding info to Gale and decides that Casey must be killed first. This is why she was targeted. So right off the bat, that comment really adds value to my original argument, my original discussion. It also explains why they targeted Casey. I mean, most of us just looked at it and assumed that it was because she dated Stu briefly, and maybe they wanted to sort of get their beaks wet, so to speak. And this sort of adds that explanation and sort of backstory to how that all unfolds, and in a very believable way, in my opinion. I think this is something that would really make sense and wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility. It also explains why Gale would approach them and actually say, like, hey, this is why you need me, so you can execute your plans, and then, I'll back you up and support you and say, like, hey, this is what it is. Again, I made points alluding to this and sort of explaining in various forms this similar idea, but I just felt like this was really sort of tidied up into a bow. I thought it was really great how it was explained, and I feel like, again, it's a very believable idea that could explain a lot of this story, this theory. Now, the second part to this that was sent was she decided to betray them after they killed Kenny. You just joke, it's South Park reference if you get it. But on a serious note, is that that would make sense. Maybe they had an agreement like, hey, Kenny isn't to be touched. Kenny tried to protect Sydney because obviously Kenny probably didn't know what was going on, didn't know that Gale was in on it, or that she had an understanding of what was going on, and thus, wanted to save Sydney, try to protect Sydney, and was just kind of in the wrong situation at the wrong time and was killed. Gale comes back to see that, tries to escape, tries to get away, and, ultimately Sydney, causes her to crash, and then she's forced back into the thing, and now all bets are off. So now she comes in, she's upset that the cameraman was killed, and put her in this situation, so she then steps in and you know what unfolds, with the gun and all that stuff. So that makes a lot of sense as far as that goes. Now, this next part really ties in to the explanation as far as her and like Dewey. And also I received a comment that asked me basically like, well then why did she use Dewey to enter the home? Why did she use Dewey to stage the camera and stuff like that? And my response to that comment was it would make sense because they all want to kind of keep their distance and distance themselves. If she just shows up, people are going to be like, what are you doing here? And that sort of adds to the story in general as well, because she's coming in. Why was she there? They asked her, like, what are you doing here? And she's just like, oh, a bunch of kids having a party, basically. It would be very logical that she knew what was going to happen that night. Thus, she was there. Thus, she wanted to get the camera inside. And she knows she can't just walk into the building because everyone's going to question, everything's going to want to know what's going on. She knows that Dewey's got this little crush on her, and let me use that and manipulate this guy to get inside the house so I can set up the camera and the footage, and that sort of sets the tone, and she may have had intentions to betray them from the jump. I mean, that was one of the things that I also relayed in the comments, was that it's very likely that she proposed this plan and idea and was planning on just sort of screwing them both and capitalizing on it. She was out for herself. Like Randy said, she's vicious enough to do something like this. She's a reporter. That's her job. But to get into the second part, so that was not part of the deal. This is the catalyst for the betrayal. Everything was going so smooth, sorta. She distracts the nosy deputy and takes him for a moonlight walk, but unfortunately nearly gets run down by the partygoers. It's also possible that she led Dewey to Neil Prescott's car to help frame him. After all, she knows how to frame a man at this stage. So, that sort of, again, adds another layer and value to this overall theory and idea. Now, I did pose the question to Cade as to why then, because Dewey was the one that originally suggested they go for a walk, that it would be romantic, it'd be nice, it'd be sweet. Granted, she could have, she played it up, she could have used another idea to distract it and get him away, but it was originally his idea. But then I really sort of thought about it after I suggested my comment of, well, then how do you explain this? And so the way I sort of thought of it was like, okay, well, you have Dewey taking you on this walk, you head this direction. She could have easily sort of steered that to the direction she wanted to go. They hit a fork in the road, or they get to the road and it's like, do we go left or do we go right? If she knows where Neil Prescott's car is, hey, why don't we go left? And thus she's steering Dewey in that direction to stumble across the car. Granted, she didn't know that the partygoers were going to essentially run her over, and it was just kind of coincidence, but it's very likely that she was the one that was like that and points it out. She probably could have known that it was in that area and would have likely set it in that direction and pointed it out one way or another. Well, you have that intimate moment. She looks up and is like, oh, what is that? And even her reaction isn't like, oh my God, it's the car. Like, it's just like that. And Dewey jumps up and he's, so again, it adds that layer, it adds that excitement and really elaborates to that story. Now, as always, this is a discussion I want to hear from you, especially if you've seen the first video. If you haven't, I would appreciate you checking out that video before we dive into the discussion, just so I don't get any questions or points that I've already went to in depth. It just makes it easier for the conversation to go, because I do respond to every comment. I do try to have a discussion with everyone, and it just makes it easier if everyone's on the same page and has an understanding, and then give their input, whether you agree with it, whether you disagree with it, whether you completely hate this idea. Either way, these are just fun videos to spark discussion, have a little enjoyment, be a little different, because we don't have really any concrete information in regards to Scream 5, so I gotta kind of be creative and have a little fun with, my community and audience, and this is a great way to do that. Come up with just fun ideas, fun theories that I think are believable. It's not so much out of left field. You're like, come on, man, that's ridiculous. It's not aliens abducting the town of Woodsboro or something. It's, it sticks within the realm of possibility. There is points throughout the franchise that you can point to. All theories have holes and and problems in it all, but overall, I think it's a pretty solid theory. I think it's something that is very believable. I think it's something that can easily be tied together. And I'm a big fan of this theory and idea. But again, let me know what you think down in the comments below. If you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out a lot. It lets me know you enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, what are you doing? Hit that subscribe button, followed by the bell notification so you never miss an upload. Stay up to date with all things Scream. Join this wonderful community and all our conversations. Cade Richardson, thank you so much again for this discussion, for sort of adding to my argument, adding to my overall theory and idea. And I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you.